Hi, and welcome to the Virgin River Cafe Rewatch podcast. Good morning, Gigi.
Good morning, Tracy. How are you today?
I'm good. It's a nice morning out. It's bright and sunny, little fog, but that's okay. It makes it not as hot because it's October right now. And when you live in Southern California, this will be your fake fall. That's what we like to call it here in Southern California because it's supposed to be fall. We're supposed to have cooler weather and all of that with the pumpkin spice, everything everywhere. But it was 94 degrees yesterday. So this is our second summer fake fall. We either wear parkas or shorts on Halloween. It's just, you never know. Unfortunately,
Uh,
here in Southern California, it's you roll the dice, you spin the wheel, and you see what Mother Nature brings you.
I
How
think
about you?
that is given. That's given for all of California because we also have a full start on our fall as well. So
Mm-hmm.
we've had a couple of days where it's been crazy weather. So yeah, it's starting to go back down. So
I
I'm
only
hoping that
hope.
it continue. I'm hoping that it continues to fall in temperature.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I'm the sweating, not a fan. Not a fan. So, what are you drinking today for your
So this
caffeinated beverage?
My caffeinated beverage this morning is a cinnamon dolce latte.
No way. That's what I got. Now, is yours hot or
Nice.
cold?
No, mine's is hot.
You just ruined it. I'm sorry. But
I'm
at
sorry.
least you picked like the best drink ever. Like that's been my favorite since my 16-year-old before she was born is when I found it. So, it's been my
I
drink
see.
for
Your drink of choice.
my favorite drink. Yep. Great choice. I give you an A
Uh,
plus on that one today.
oh, look at that. Well, I was hoping for an A grade these days, but that's good.
Good choice. All right. So here we are. We are now knee deep in season 2. We are more than halfway through. These episodes actually launched November of 2020, which at that time, depending on when you're listening to this, whether it's far, far in the future or just a little bit in the future, that was knee deep in the pandemic. We were on lockdown, nobody was going anywhere, everybody was home,
Mm.
and everybody needed a little Virgin River.
Oh,
It was
amen.
the perfect comfort at the time when people needed it. Interestingly enough, they had filmed season 1, put it in the can, filmed season 2 before, had it all post production and ready before an episode ever aired. And when they aired the first season, when they got the okay for the second season, they had not even like released an episode yet. So they had done 2 seasons before the show ever aired.
Wow,
And
that's pretty impressive.
yeah, and so people sort of got a little taste of it that first season in 2019 because it was late in the
Hmm.
year. That's like kind of right when things were happening. And then by the time end of 2020 came around, people were like, "Oh yeah, this is exactly what we need." And I think at that time it was definitely like a little bit of comfort food for people. People really
Well, I found
appreciated it.
I found it by accident,
Hmm.
but I did see it the first season, so I just loved it from then on.
I mean,
So
how can you not? You
yeah,
know, everybody needs a little Virgin River in their life. Just-
amen to that, sister. Amen.
yeah. Anyway, so just a little tidbit. Anyway, so let's get
So
started.
season 2, episode 6, out of the past.
Okay, this one description says Mel struggles with how to honor Mark ahead of the first year anniversary of his death. A stressed out Jack makes bad decisions. Hope
Hmm.
apologizes with pie. This is a good episode. I know I say that a lot. There's a lot of good episodes. I mean, there's not very many that aren't good, but some are better than others. This happens to have a few really good scenes in it that I like. So of course we have to start off every episode with and this seems like a different scenery shot than some of the other ones. I know they do a lot of probably get a drone up there or whatever aerial shots, and it's breathtaking. And it's nice when they don't show, like, recycle the same scenery over and over again. It's nice when they kind of throw up a new one.
Hmm.
I mean, I can't wait to take a visit there and see some of this scenery in person. So,
Yes, it would be lovely to see that.
I think it's, I mean, I was in the Pacific Northwest because I was up in Spokane, Washington, and I swear I felt like I was driving through Virgin River because it had that feel. It had that with the trees and the rivers and and it just, it felt very similar
Hmm.
to what, and I
Yeah.
know because it's only like a few hours away, um, a couple a couple hours by plane to get to where they film. So, I mean, I was in that vicinity and it really did feel like that area. It was
Hmm.
beautiful. So I can't wait to go to the actual area. Hopefully someday soon. All right.
Yes.
So here we go. We start off and Mel is at Doc's clinic. So she's at the clinic and she is walking into the kitchen and she hears a noise. Now, keep in mind that not that long ago, she was at the clinic by herself and that guy broke in, held her by knife point. Jack had to save her. All of that happened. So,
Hmm.
being by herself, I mean, she's a tough cookie. She can handle herself. It is morning. I mean, it's daylight. So, it's not like it's, 10 o'clock at night and she's by herself. But she hears someone trying to get into the front door. The doorknob's rattling. First she kind of blows it off. She goes to make coffee in the kitchen, but then she stops because she hears it again. And then and you can tell she's a little nervous, a little tentative, walking toward the door, kind of like, what's going on? I hear something. Now remember, there is that two doors with the vestibule between it, so she can see through the stained glass door to the big door, and somebody is jiggling the handle. And then she yells, hello, and she doesn't hear anything. So she opens the first door, and then she kind of has to use her forceful voice, like, hey, if you don't tell me who it is, I'm going to call the sheriff. And on the other side of the door, it's Jack. And he's like, Mel, it's me. And she's like, Jack? And his key was stuck. He couldn't get in. He's like, oh, God, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. I couldn't get the key to work. And she was like, yeah. She goes, well, the last time, unexpected visitor and there was a knife involved. And he was like, no, no knife. I'm just here to borrow Doc's dry bag. Now, I'm guessing that has to do with fishing.
Yes.
Is that like you put your stuff in it and you zip it up and
Yes.
so that
Yep.
it
Hmm.
stays? I mean,
Yep. It stays. Yeah, it stays dry.
it sounds logical. I'm
Pretty.
not I don't fit. I'm allergic to fish, so I'm not a fisherman. I don't go fishing. I don't deal with that at all. But I'm going to go with that's what I think it is and I think we're right. So,
That's it. But if you notice the look on his face,
he's very
he,
distracted.
exactly, he looks stressed out.
He's not
You
he's
know,
off. He is
yeah,
definitely off.
he's not. Yeah, he's got that look of
Like normally he comes in, they have a little banter, maybe a little
exactly
flirting, a little bit of
right.
gazing at each other, quick conversation. He might stand around and talk to her. He like
Mm,
he has a mission. He wants to get the dry bag and he wants to get out of there and he's just like
mm,
he's off. He's definitely off.
yeah.
Now it's a Sunday because he's like, "What are you doing working on a Sunday?" And she's obviously at the clinic, which is weird because she shouldn't be there. And she said that she's trying to create digital files for Doc, and he was like, "What, Doc? Digital files?" I mean, he thought that computers were the demise of civilization. Surprised that he's even letting you do that. But I mean, she knows with modern technology and everything, it's just going to make things so much easier for them. And so she
Mm,
explains that if he could keep track of his paper files, then maybe she would not have to do this, but he can't. And so she's just going to do it anyway because,
good luck with that one,
right?
because Doc is like a dog with a bone. He does not like to give it up.
Oh, yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
he's just gonna keep what he's got, and he's happy with it.
So then he
And so
asks, because the night
yeah.
before, remember, Stacy was there and he came
Oh
over to have a
yes.
little chat. And then she overheard the conversation when she said, "Oh, I heard you talking to your friend." And then Stacy got in a huff and left because she wouldn't give her the ring. So Jack's like, "Hey, did you sort everything out with the ring. And she was like, well, I wouldn't give her the ring. She got upset and she left. And he was like, well, good for you. At least you don't have to see her for a while. And she said that she's like, well, she wasn't invited to the family memorial. So, and he's like, memorial? And she's like, oh, because he knew that Mark had died. He just didn't know there was
How
a
long?
time frame. Like I mean, it
Yeah.
could have been 2 years. It could have been 6 months. He had no idea. There was never a
Right.
discussion of when. And she says, oh, well, tomorrow it'll be a year since he passed away. I mean, I think he had an idea that it was coming up, that anniversary, but, and he's really uncomfortable about, like,
Mhm.
he's just off. I mean, he's being nice, and he's asking her, like, how are you doing and everything, and but you can tell he's very distracted and off. And she's like, nah, I'm okay. Gotta get through the next couple of days and want to find a way to honor him, but she just doesn't know what to do, and she doesn't really want to sit around and be sad. So she's trying to, like, distract herself by finding some way to honor his memory and keep herself busy at the same time. So she feels like that's going to help her move forward. And it's like what he says is really good, but it's like the way he says it is just off. He's like, oh, I'm sure you can find a way to reflect without getting overwhelmed. And even she looks at him like, what's up with you? She's like, can I ask you something? Now, this is where, I mean, this is probably not the time to be asking him about this stuff because
Especially, yeah,
he's off,
yeah.
and the guys are still there, which
Mhm.
is probably why he needs the dry bag, because the guys are going kayaking. Remember, they mentioned they're going kayaking.
Mhm.
And but Mel, she goes for it. I mean, if she has a question, if she wants to talk about something, she doesn't hold back.
Girl, girl's got chutzpah.
Right? And she's like, how come you never talk about Iraq? He kind of is like, well, I was mostly in Afghanistan, like a joke. Like, yeah, I'm not going to talk about Iraq because I wasn't there. And trying to, like, sidestep the subject.
Mhm.
And she's like, I would think that seeing all your military buddies would, like, bring all this stuff up. Because in her mind, she's dealing with Mark's passing and it's bringing
Mhm.
stuff up. And so they're both kind of in that same sad place where they're dealing with grief and trying to find some camaraderie in that. And he was like, well, it's fine. I'm good. And I'll let you get back to work. And he's like dodging the question. And he was
And
like,
she's like a dog with a bone.
she's like, you didn't answer my question. And she's like, is seeing them hard? And he was like, well, it's nothing I can't handle. Tell Doc I said thanks for the rye bag. And she's looking at him like, what's going on with you, dude? Like, something is up with you. Don't worry, that will come out later. He
Yes,
can
it
only
will.
hold it together for so long. She's definitely much better at handling herself, because
Mhm.
she talks about it and deals with it, and he likes to hold it all in and handle it himself. I think Preacher said that before, back when they were at the mingle, and Mel was asking Preacher about
That's good.
Jack,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
he was like, he likes to handle his own business. He just might want to not get involved with that. And he warned her, but Mel, she's not going to listen
Mhm.
to that.
So now we're back at the bar. Doc is sitting having a meal, and who should walk in but Hope, and
Oh,
she
on a
looks
mission.
like, oh, she is like, she's coming through there like a bat out of hell.
Yep.
She's like, Charming, that little beast's dog destroyed her
Favorite
her
boots.
car and her carpet, and I feel her pain.
Yeah, so he
and
he
and, and
chewed up shoes, peed on the carpet. See, this is exactly why you don't bring a dog to someone's
exact
house
his
before
house,
asking them.
exactly. I don't know what Jack was thinking.
I know.
You
I
know,
know. And I
you
love
know.
Doc's
I look.
response. Dogs are an excellent judge of character. Oh, it's like,
uh,
come on.
uh, oh God, yes, I just love it.
Now, when she first had Charmaine come to the house and that thing she said about Benjamin Franklin said about
It's
3 days and
yeah,
fish.
yeah,
And
and
I'm
I
sure
love that line.
she thought 3 days and she'd be out of there. And
Mm.
it's been more than 3 days. And she's like, I
Oh.
want my house back. And Doc's like, well, keep your socks on, sweetie. Because Charmaine, she'll be able to go home soon. I mean, they don't have an exact date, but
Yeah, yeah. Help
and
Hope.
and of
That's
course Hope wants is like, well, when? Like when? And he's like, soon.
and that's the answer of it, basically saying, I don't know
Yeah,
when,
I don't
but
know, but soon.
now my favorite person, one of my favorite people, walks in.
Yep. And she walks
That's the
right
bar.
up to Doc and Hope. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
See,
Muriel is like, she's got to put herself in the situation at all times. Well,
and
and she
so,
has to do she's got to give a little dig because she's like,
mhm,
oh, Hope, I'm surprised I see you standing. And she was like, why? And she's like, oh, well, I was afraid that maybe you might have strained something at the dance class, which is a dig at her age because,
yes,
Muriel's like late 50s ish and
yeah,
Hope is probably late 60s, early 70s. So
yeah.
she's got to give a dig anywhere she can. I mean, nobody's saying anything about Doc. He's 72. He's spry as anything. She
this
didn't
is
ask him.
this has nothing to do with Doc. You know, this is a tit
Well,
for tat.
yeah, absolutely. 100%.
And that is how this is going. And the thing is, Doc is now put
Oh,
in the most uncomfortable.
he is not going to say a word either. Because no matter what he says, he's going to get smacked for it. So he may as well just not say anything. She's
And
like,
they're ruining the man's lunch.
she's
You
like,
know, he's sitting there.
I know you're not used to exercising. She's like, the only thing straining. And then Doc jumps in. Preacher kind of pipes in, hearing this going on. He goes, Muriel, your beef stroganoff is ready. I'll get it for you right now. Like trying to diffuse the situation.
Oh yeah, because it's gonna get ugly.
And then Doc wants to change the subject, and he's like, "Oh, beef stroganoff! What a great choice! Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely, it's for her. It's for Muriel's Sunday fun day." And Hope is like, "What is that?" She goes, "Oh, just an afternoon of wine and games at my house. You should stop by." As she puts her hand on Doc's shoulder.
Ah
I mean,
yes.
it's just
Mm.
so uncomfortable.
Decides Doc says he's gonna help her take it out to the car
Yep,
because it's pretty big. So apparently this includes other
this is a
people because of
gathering.
the size.
Yes, this is a
Yes, this is
gathering.
a
This isn't
gather.
just her.
So this tells me that Miriam has other friends there in town
Yes.
besides the sewing
Or
group.
yeah, maybe the
Uh,
sewing
be-
group, maybe their spouses, maybe other people, who knows, but it's
yeah.
definitely a get together. She wants to invite Doc and it, Hope's like, good luck getting it out of the car because if Doc's going to put it in the car, who's going to help her get it out of the car?
Mm-hmm.
Ridiculous. So she's like, well, it seems like Doc's available. Like that's an assumption. So they walk
Yeah.
outside and Muriel opens her trunk and Doc's putting it in the back and this is where he has to have a little chat. And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, I really enjoy our time together. And she's like, oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I still can't get over how much we have in common, which it's very true. They have a lot of things
Yeah,
in common, and
they
he
do.
agrees with her. He totally agrees with her. They
Mm-hmm.
definitely have, and it's all things that him and Hope don't have in common. So
That's
it's like
true.
if he had, I don't know, if he was a polygamist, this would be perfect because he could do some things with some wife and some things with another wife, and everybody's happy because, they don't like this, the women don't like the same things, but he likes all of the things. So, but,
Mm-hmm.
we're in Virgin River, so that's not going to happen.
That's true. This is not Utah.
So, and Mariel kind of points out that, yeah, we have so much in common. And it's just interesting how Hope and him ever got together because they don't seem like they are on the same page. That they're more
Mm-hmm.
like polar opposites as opposed to, and he mentions that, well, sometimes being different is what brings people together. That way you have a lot of things to talk about. And she's like, well, yeah, I guess. And she said, yeah, but, and she's trying so hard. I mean, God love her. She's
I
like, I
know.
believe that attraction happens more easily between like minded people. So she's trying to like push the,
Right. She's trying to justify why they should be
yes.
basically.
And she's trying to justify why they should be together. And he keeps trying to justify why him and Hope are together. So, and then he's like, yeah, but
Yeah.
history is also a factor. And she's like, yeah, I know, but she's just thinks that maybe that their story has just begun. And she kind of leans in like she might want to kiss him, and he grabs her by the shoulders very gently, and he's like, "Look, Hope and I have decided to reconcile." And the look on her
Look,
face,
oh, I know. It's
it's
so,
so sad because I think
oh,
she
it's
thought
so
she had
sad.
a genuine chance with him.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
mean, he's had enough of this. I mean, one date he was fine with, but then she kept
yeah.
making him push it, and he was like, "No, this isn't right. I'm going to be honest with her." And thank God he did, because trying to let her down easily, even though he knows he's still hurting her feelings. He's
Yeah.
doing his best to let her down easily. He's like, "I'm
But also,
sorry."
but also, it's a situation where she hasn't invested a lot of
Right.
time.
Right. Maybe more feelings than she
Right.
thought she
Well,
would, but
well, here's the deal. It's not like how, remember we were talking about Charmaine and,
oh, yeah.
Jack, where Charmaine had invested all this
Oh,
time
yeah,
in a
2 years.
relationship,
Yeah.
thinking exactly. So at least with Doc, he nipped it in the butt,
I
as
mean,
they say. So,
I feel like she's had a crush on him for a while,
oh yeah,
but
I
most
think so too.
recently has actually acted on it, and a couple of dates, a couple of, evenings spent together. It wasn't
Hmm.
enough to like crush her.
Right, right,
And
right.
he's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't know how else to tell you." He
Hmm.
feels bad, and she's like, "No, I'm no need to be sorry." I mean, she appreciates him being honest and upfront with her, even though it hurts. And he's like,
Yeah.
I hope we can remain friends." It's like, oh, putting her in the friend zone, not where
Hmm.
somebody wants to be. And she's like, "Oh, I'm sure we can manage that." I mean, these are mature adults. They're not
That's,
kids. They're not.
but feelings still can be, this is still somebody's feelings, you know what I mean? You can tell that she feels the jab, as
Yeah.
they say.
Well, and she even says, if anything ever changes, be sure to let me know, because I don't know. I think
It,
the way that him and Hope have been, I mean, she's known them for years. They've had this
mm,
animosity. Only now, after all these years, are they finding their way back to each other. So she
right.
figures they've been on the outs for so long. Maybe that'll,
Mm.
as he's putting her in the car and she's driving away, Hope walks out, and she's like, "What's taking so long? Like, I put something in the car. Like, geez." And he's like, "Well, I talked to Mariel and I told her we're getting back together." And she's like, "Oh, you didn't have to do that." And he's like, "Yeah, it's not right. She's an innocent bystander. It was hard enough to tell her." The look on her face, she goes, "Yeah, she's not as doe-eyed as you think." And he's like, "Wait a minute. Come on now. She's a good person and it wasn't right, and I needed to be honest with her." And he already feels really bad that he
Really bad, yeah.
participated in this charade that Hope decided
Mm.
she needed to display, which was ridiculous.
She, as usual, Hope
Mhm.
thinks about only Hope.
Yep.
So now we're back. We're back in the
The
guys, and he's
guys are
driving up.
camping and all the stuff is out for their big fun day. They're going to It looks like he's kayaks in the back of his truck, and they're all probably still sleeping. And so he starts banging on the campers and unzipping everything. And he's like, "Get your asses up, wakey, wakey." And the guy's like, "Dude, what time is it?" And people are like, "We're hungover and my back hurts." And the guys are like, "Oh, I think we might hit the road sooner than rain." He goes, what? No, we're going kayaking." And he's like, and Mike's like, "I got a ton of work." And the guy's like, "My daughter has a swim meet." And he's like, "Yeah, let's just grab breakfast together." Like, they're talking like a bunch of 60-year-old men. And Jack's like 21 and ready to party.
He's been up since it's probably 5 o'clock in the morning,
Well,
and
yeah. He's already seen
you know,
Mel and already, got the kayaks. I mean, yeah, but remember, this is for him, it's all about distraction.
yep,
He's got to keep his mind busy so that he doesn't stop, because when he stops to think is when
yeah,
he starts to
gets into
unravel.
trouble.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's trying to avoid that. So he's going to keep as busy as possible. And having these guys around is a good distraction if they stick around. The problem is if they want to go home, then that might not work. So he's like,
Mhm.
"Come on, guys, and he's like, "You're acting like a bunch of old men." And he goes, "Well, it's kind of like we are." And he goes, "Yeah, but you don't have to act like it." So he goes, "What did you came here. You came here for fun. You came here to have a good time. Yeah, I get that you have your lives and all of that. But let's just have some fun." He says, "You come here to improvise, adapt, and overcome." So They're like, he's like, suck it up, let's go. And they're like, oorah, because it's the Marine thing. He goes, I'm going to
And you
kick your
can tell.
asses up and down the river. And the guys are like, oh my God, somebody don't give this man any more coffee.
I know he's so hyped,
Oh my gosh.
and they're like barely moving.
Oh yeah, they were literally sleeping 5 minutes before.
Yeah.
So
Now we're back at
back
Jack's
at
bar.
Jack's bar, and Preacher's serving breakfast, and Ricky's helping out, and Preacher's like, I'll be back in a few hours, and George, the new guy's on his way over to keep an eye on things. And he was like, did Jack tell you? And he goes, about stealing the liquor? Yeah, he told me. Because Ricky's like, I don't know. It's like, I'm worried. You know, like, Jack's never been mad at me before. And Preacher's like, yeah, dude, I think he's just more disappointed than mad. Because, I mean, he's not going to get mad. I mean, he knows how he's been raised, and he's been raised better than that. And when he made a really poor decision, he's like, no, man, that's not right. And so Ricky's like, great, now I feel like garbage. It's like, he probably should.
Yeah, I was not about to say that. He know he did something wrong. It's not like he doesn't know that he did something.
And Preacher also steps in as like a big brother, mentor, father figure kind of guy. Just, I mean, it's like there's so many people that are there for him. And he kind of has to explain it maybe to Ricky because he's young and maybe he doesn't get it. Maybe he does. But he's like, look, Jack's given you a lot of responsibilities, and he's counting on you to fill his shoes when he's not there. And he's like, yeah, I know. I screwed up, and sometimes I feel like I never got to be a kid. And Preacher's like, yeah, I get that. But as long as it's a one-time thing, you know, you're allowed to make mistakes. But, you know, you should feel good that Jack looks at you, gives you the responsibilities, and treats you like a man. You know, that because he says that by doing that, by following what he knows he's supposed to do, you know, he'll grow up better, you know, and Jack will get over it. I think Jack just wants to make sure that Ricky doesn't keep going down that path. So he's gonna be on him. He's gonna make sure that he, you know, that he stays.
He's gonna hold him responsible.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's the thing. And then
now
we get to
Hope's house. And what is she doing? Cleaning up dog pee because the dog peed on her rug.
Oh, let me tell you, I was kicking her and the dog out that same day. I'm sorry. No peeing on my carpet.
I know, right?
Not going to happen.
And she's pissed. She's like, that mongrel had another accident, and I know he's doing it on purpose. Like, really? And the dog's just sitting on the couch, just chilling, and Mel walks in. And she's like, I don't, that's not true. He goes, yeah, that's what he wants you to believe. He goes, fair warning, Tucker, you're on my list. And he barks at her. He goes, yeah, just like your mother. She goes, oh, Charmaine is in the shower, by the way, and she'll be down as soon as she uses up all the hot water. Now, okay. I thought the whole point was that they didn't want Charmaine going up and down the steps, but the shower is upstairs.
Oh, well.
Right?
Apparently people didn't get their story right. I don't know.
Like there isn't a bathroom with a shower downstairs. Like that was the whole point. Not. She couldn't go to the bar. She couldn't go to so and so's house.
Maybe the stairs maybe the stairs to Hope's bathroom is not a lot of stairs.
Oh, it is a lot. Remember, we saw Jack and Mel bringing a mattress down it, so it's a good chunk of stairs. But whatever. Maybe it's been a few days and she's feeling better and she's not so dizzy that they're not afraid she's going to fall down the steps.
And she should damn well go home.
I know. Oh no, but we've got we got some more to deal with.
Oh, if you say so.
So then Hope turns around to Mel and she's like, "Did somebody pee on your floor?" Because she looks like she's in a mood.
Yep.
And she's like, "Not that I know of." She goes, "Well, what's wrong with you then?" She goes, "This isn't snooping," because you know Hope. It's just a conversation. She's like, well, what's the difference? She goes, well, if you don't want to talk about it, I'll back off. She goes, I don't. She's really, it might help. And she's like, no, it's just that tomorrow it'll be a year since Mark passed away. And I don't know how I want to spend it. So, and this is where I think it was good that she talked to Hope because I don't think, except for Liddy, I don't think there's another person in town
Mm-hmm.
who has a husband that passed away.
Passed away. Yeah.
And so for once, Hope actually does a good job here. She
Yeah,
actually
she
gives some
does.
good
She's
advice.
good. She gives it. She occasionally. It's not that Hope doesn't give good advice.
She
Because the
just butts
problem is
in.
exactly her curiosity factor gets in the way
Yeah.
of good common sense,
Yeah.
and that's when she gets into trouble.
Yep. So she's like, there's no, right or wrong way to get through one of these anniversaries. And that's the thing, Mel's like, it feels wrong to call it an anniversary because anniversaries are supposed to be happy and, celebrating and it's about loss. It's not about being happy. An anniversary is supposed to be happy. And it's like, how do you mark, as Mel says, how do you mark the worst day of your life? And Hope is like, you don't have to do anything. She goes, when her second husband died, she completely ignored everything that would stir up any kind of memory, birthday, anniversary, holiday. Like she basically tapped out of the world.
Right. She shut down.
And
I
yeah,
could relate to that.
exactly. And Mel's like, did that work? I mean, shutting yourself off? And Hope was like, well, it worked for me. And Mel, who is much more introspective than that. I mean, I could see her shutting down for a short time, but she's not that kind of person. She feels the need to talk and work it out and figure it out. And so she says that everybody has their own way of grieving, but from everything that she's read, that in order to heal, you have to face your emotions. And that's why Hope says she sticks to gardening magazines. Because as we know, Hope does not like to deal with her emotions. And
No.
because remember when that whole thing happened with Jack? I mean, she lost it. Like she didn't even know how to process her emotions when that all happened. So she tries to steer clear. So in walks Doc, and he's like, ladies. And Hope excuses herself, get out of there. I'm going to go put on some tea. Like, I'm just not going to.
I'm out of here.
Yeah. And so he asks if she's seen Charmaine. He's like, oh, she's taking a shower. She'll be down in a few minutes. And he goes, yeah, but that exam was supposed to happen like 10 minutes ago. And Mel's like, yeah, well, what do you want me to say? Like, she's kind of in a mood, too. I don't know if Jack put her in the mood. The whole thing with a combination of Jack being in a mood and her 1-year anniversary of Mark's death. And she doesn't know what to do, but she's in a mood, too. Like, everybody's in a mood today. Like, what's going on?
It's a combo.
Yeah. And Doc's like, well, I heard from Connie. She goes, yeah, I know. She's upset with me because I gave Lizzie a prescription. She goes, well, what did you say? He goes, I talked to her. Don't worry. And he goes, I told her that you were doing your job. And Mel was like, taken aback. Taken aback. And he's like, just give her another prescription and I'll deal with Connie. And Mel is like, I offered, but Lizzie refused. And Doc's like, well, because the only way Lizzie's getting a prescription is if somebody drives her to Clear River because she doesn't drive. So she's just not even going to deal with it. Like, it's too much trouble and she's not even going to bother. And
okay, I'm going to side note you there.
Yes.
I find it hard that a kid who lives in LA doesn't know how to drive.
No, that's very common. Very common. Now, if we go back to when we were young, on our 16th birthday, we got our drive. We were like banging on the door of the DMV to get our license. And the second we got our license, we were gone. Like the parents were like, oh, thank God I don't have to drive you anymore. Here's the keys. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. Don't forget to check make sure you have enough gas. Right? But nowadays, people, kids don't want to drive. I mean, they have a couple of friends. Usually there's those handful of friends that can't wait to get their license. There's still those kids around. But for the majority, they don't want to drive. They have Uber. Their parents will take them wherever they want. It's a different world. I mean, our parents were like, oh my God, find your own way. Like, please learn how to drive so I don't have to take you. But these days, parents are, I don't know, they're just, it's a different way of raising children. But they're more accommodating with like driving them around. Like my son was scared to drive. He didn't want to drive. He was like, I'm not getting on. That's a big car and a big road and people are coming at me. I am not. He was 19. So I had to drive him around for an extra 3 years, 2.5 years.
Oh, yes.
Now my daughter would love to drive. She's 16 now, but she hurt her ankle, so that was the ankle you drive with. So we're on a little pause. But she would have had her license at 16 if it was possible. So I mean, it's definitely a mixed bag. But yeah, living in LA, there's Uber, especially because you see that she's kind of from a wealthy family.
Yeah.
So my guess is her dad gives her an allowance because she talks about it. My guess is she uses that for eating out, coffee, and Uber and shopping.
Yeah.
So she doesn't need to drive.
Okay, that makes
And
sense.
unfortunately, living in a small town, if you want to go anywhere, you're walking or you're looking for a ride.
That is also true.
So I think that it's not as unusual as you would think. But anyway.
Yes, sorry.
That's
Took a
okay. No, I
turn
think
there.
it's just interesting how the way things work. So she doesn't want Connie because Connie won't take her. She feels like Connie won't take her because then that's Connie saying, I'm giving you permission to take birth control. And she doesn't want to do that. So she's not even going to ask. And she doesn't have a ride there. So she's kind of stuck. So Doc is like, just, I happen to have samples. Just they're in my office. Just give those to her until she can figure out transportation or another way to get them or whatever. But at least you can fulfill the prescription so that she is being safe.
Wow.
And then Doc's like, I also have other drugs just in case, there's other people, they can't afford it. They can't get to the pharmacy. And, I do that. It's kind of like what he does for the people at the pot camp.
Pot farm, yeah.
Yeah, he it's like for him it's all about doctoring. It's all about taking care of the people, and he'll do that in whatever way he can. And guaranteed he is not a rich man. I'm sure he does okay,
No.
but I mean sometimes he gets paid in potatoes. So
and
pies and and all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, for him, it's more about the people. And as long as his basic needs are taken care of, he's fine. He's good. And I think Mel is learning to appreciate that and that she takes that on as well and learns that it is because she lived in that high society kind of world and she married to a doctor and she had nice things and would go shopping and Barney's and Cartier and all, and she doesn't need any of that anymore. She's perfectly happy just having the basic needs met and being happy, because maybe she had all that, but she wasn't very happy.
Also, she had her husband there.
Yes.
And so
But even before her husband, I mean, it sounds like, she did pretty well. So Doc's like, look, Lizzie's an adult. Connie has no right to interfere with her medical care. And
try telling Connie that.
Mel is like, that's right. And she is just shocked that she was not expecting Doc to be on her side. And he was like, look, and this is a good line. In medicine, there are no sides. There's only patients to treat. I mean, that's like a very good line.
It is.
So in walks Charmaine, fresh out of the shower. She's like, oh, hi, I have to dry my hair. I'll be like 20 minutes. And both of them are just like rolling their eyes. Like, oh my.
See, but that's encouragement because at that point you go, oh no, you're just gonna have to wait because we got places to go and patients to see too.
And they didn't though. They just let her go. And Doc's like, yeah, there are times I wish I became a veterinarian. And they just kind of laugh about it. I mean, I think they're at the point that it's whatever. It is what it is. They're not. It's country doctoring. It's not like they have a patient, a waiting room full of patients right now. So
yeah,
they're like, it's fine. It's Charmaine. Everybody's nerves are a little shot. We're just all going to sit back and chill at this point. So Ricky goes to the park where the bakery truck is and he's looking for Lizzie and he's like, hello. And there's no customers, so she's kind of chilling out on the side. She was napping. And he's like, God, if I could sleep during the day, it would be great. She's like, oh my gosh, even your internal clock is like on a schedule. Because he's very regimented. He's, but he's grown up having, no parents, a lot faster. He's had to help take care of his grandmother. He's got a responsibility of working at the bar. Jack is always making sure he's doing the right thing. Preacher's making sure he's doing the right thing. All the ladies are making sure. So he has had people care about his daily life.
Right.
Whereas
she doesn't have that.
She doesn't have nannies and parents that aren't around and kind of fly by the seat of her pants. So she
Yeah.
doesn't know what that's like. So she's
Nope,
like,
she
so
does not.
what are you up to today? And he's like, oh, I got a history test and a second shift at the bar. And this is where you find out what Lizzie's life is like. She goes, well, my dad sent me some cash. And he's like, wow, that must be nice. She goes, no, it's guilt money. And she's like, so you want to go shopping? And he's like, sure. So they want to go to Eureka, which is a little bit bigger town, because they have a
Yep.
Sephora, which
It's and it's a 2-hour drive from
she's
where they
got
are.
expensive taste.
Yes, she does.
So she definitely wants to go spend some of Daddy's money. He's like, well, I can't. I don't have a car. And she goes, you just drove us to that lame party. He goes, yeah, but that was my grandma's car. Maybe we could take the bus. And she goes, ew, that's humiliating. And he's like, well, I'm not supposed to drive the car out of town. And she goes, well, I guess I'll just have to go by myself with this pouty face and
Oh,
all of that. And
jeez.
he was like, no, 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 no. I'll take you. She goes, okay, pick me up at 1:00. I
Mm.
mean, just so manipulative. And he was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, I don't know if this is a
Yeah,
good idea,
exactly.
but I'm going to do it anyway.
Right, exactly. Because the minute he said it, now it's percolating in his head. He
Regret.
realizes that he's
Regret.
screwed. Anyway, so now we see Lily now, um, getting into her car with the baby, and
Someone's helping her with
um,
some stuff for the farm, probably. And she's
yeah.
putting she's putting Chloe in the back seat. And then she
And
sees,
who should show up? Brady. And she has this look of total disgust, like she
like,
doesn't
I
want to
don't want to
talk to him.
talk to you and I don't trust you anymore. And he was like, oh, how have
Mm-hmm.
you been? She goes, I just saw you a week ago. She's like, oh, yeah, that's right. And she's like, what do you want? And he's like, well, I just need you to sign that last page of your contract because they're officially going to close the deal on the farm of the company, Emerald Lumber, buying the farm. And then he says, and as soon as we sign the deal, then I can get you your check. And
Mm-hmm.
he's doing it with a smile. And he's like, it's in the truck. I can go get it right now. And she's like, who's Calvin? And he's like, just a local businessman. I mean, that's a stretch,
And
wouldn't you say?
and I love she went directly to it.
Oh, yeah.
She says, "I heard he's a drug dealer." You
Goes,
know,
well,
he,
that's
he,
some serious misinformation. And then
mm,
she hits him with, like, you weren't going to tell me, but I found out. I know Calvin owns Emerald Lumber, and that's the company that wants to buy my property. And he's like, Lily, we've already bought it. She goes, no. Jack says it's not a done deal until I sign the contract. He goes, look, we negotiated in good faith, and I wouldn't have done this if I knew he was behind all this. There's no way. And he goes, look, if you
mm-hmm.
want more money, I'm sure I can get you some more. And she goes, it's not all about the money.
For the money. That's you see,
It's
that's
not
the
about the
difference.
money. She wanted the farm to
Uh,
go to someone who cares.
yeah.
And that's why she was excited because they said they would restore it to its former glory. And because when her husband died and a lot of the ranch hands left and people stopped helping, the farm kind of fell sort of,
In
in
disrepair.
disrepair, and it was barely hanging on. And
Yeah.
she really was excited that somebody was going to come back and take care of it
Take care of it. Yeah, it was supposed to be taken
the
care
way
of.
that
Yeah.
she used to when it
Yeah.
was, when it was really in its full form.
Yeah. Yeah. When her husband was there, and everybody was there to help them.
Right.
And now he and Mr. Slimeball want to come
Mhm.
in and do their drug business, and she is not having it.
Yep, and she doesn't know what
So
that involves, but she is not going
she
to take
does
a
not care.
chance. Yeah.
Nope, she
She
does
just
not care.
yeah,
She's just like, yeah, you and your drug money can go somewhere else because it is not buying my farm.
exactly.
So, because remember, Virgin River is the one place
Yep.
they don't have anything set up.
No. It's
You know what I mean?
it's everywhere else they've got police and
Mm-hmm.
operations and
Right.
transportation, and but Virgin
Yep.
River, it's like they've not been able to infiltrate.
It's Virgin Land,
Yeah, well,
and that is a place they have
only
not
in
been
some
able to
ways, not in
infiltrate.
others.
Yeah. But
So now
yeah,
now we're back at Hope's house, and Doc just is doing the checkup on Charmaine and saying
mm-hmm.
that her blood sugar looks good, her blood pressure is good, she's feeling good. They think they found the right formula to keep the nausea down and keep her HG under control, that she's, feeling a lot better. She's there with the dog. And so she's like, does that mean I can go home? And, even though everybody's pissed at everybody, Mel's back. I mean, now think about it. Remember, she fired Mel.
But that's what I was now about to say. She fired Mel. So,
but remember when Mel came back after, and we had this discussion. You didn't think that Doc should have sent Mel to give her the test results.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she came and she gave her juice, and it was like sort of like an olive branch. Like I'm not going to fight with you. I care about your baby and I want to make sure you're okay, and that's why I'm here, and here's some juice, and it was sort of like, let's just be civil, because eventually we live in the same town, eventually we're going to run into each other, and if you're having this baby with Jack and I'm with Jack, we're going to be in each other's lives, so we better find a way to coexist. And I think that the two of them just finally are like, threw in the towel.
Yeah, I guess so.
Charmaine is like, she's good at what she does. She knows what she's talking about. She does care about my baby. And maybe part of her realizes, I'm not getting Jack, so why fight the future? I mean, she'll maybe keep trying, but they're okay now. It's like they found a happy medium. They can coexist. There doesn't seem to be, I mean, everyone seems to be smiling. So, it's a good day. Considering the day started off pretty bad, it seems to be. So. And plus, Charmaine gets to go home. She's in a great mood.
Yeah.
So let's just ride the high, ride the high.
She's not in the typical bitchy mood that she can be in when, like a sourpuss.
Exactly.
When she sees Mel with Jack. So
she's like, because everything looks good, she asks Doc, do I get to go home? And he was like, yes, but some conditions. And she's like, whatever you want. Like, remember before she just fought them on every little thing. And now it's like she saw, by listening to them, she made it through this, and she's in a really, really good, healthy place. So whatever they want, she's going to do, because she knows, okay, I didn't believe you guys. I thought you were, ulterior motives and all of that. She's over that. Now she's like, I get it. I'm going to listen to you. You know what you're talking about, and whatever I have to do. And he's like, okay, you got to return for regular checkups. And she's like, yeah, of course, whatever you want. And you got to set up a birth plan with Mel. And she's like, okay. And, I know. And he's like, look, Jack's buddies are in town. And so when you finish packing, I'll take you back to Clear River. And she was like, thank you so much, both of you. And I mean, she's like so excited. So then Mel says, because I have more experience with complicated pregnancy, she's like, look, you don't have to explain. I'm thankful for everything that you've done. I'm going to listen. Jack, our babies. It's just, she's so happy. She's unbelievable. She's getting everything she wanted. And Mel's like, I'm happy for you. I'm happy you're feeling better. And she's like, oh, I can't wait to tell Jack that I get to go home. And Mel's like, okay, great. Now, one part was Mel, by having Charmaine here, she always knew where she was.
Yes.
So Charmaine couldn't stir up any trouble because she was sick. I mean, she could have Jack come over and talk to him and fill his head with whatever, but she knew where she was. Now that she's getting sprung, it's like the look on Mel's face is a little cautious. Like, what does this mean? Because now that she's feeling better, is she going to go after Jack again? Like, we finally found a groove, and now, I don't know, I feel like Charmaine might try to mess it up.
You never know.
But that's okay. That's all right. So Mel's like, okay, well, I wonder what this is going to mean. Because they're not even together. Because keep in mind, they're not together. I mean, she said, I support Jack in raising these babies with you and, being a father. But they're not together. I mean, they're sort of in the friend zone right now because of everything. So even though they want to be, it's not where they are. So it almost, it's like she's a little nervous because it sort of does leave a little bit of an opening for Charmaine to kind of squeeze in there, because she is carrying his babies. Could that pull him back to her? And that's in the back of her mind.
Yeah. Even though he said never,
He
ever,
said
ever.
never, but she said, right, the first night together, that next morning, you don't know how you're going to feel until the babies are here. You can't predict how you're going to feel. You say what you say now, but you're not holding one of your children yet. And that may change how you feel once that happens.
Yep.
So here we are, and
Yes.
we are at the river's edge. And all the guys are just having a good time getting ready to go kayaking. And Jack is
And-
like, come on, let's get some excitement, and everybody's all excited about it.
But he wants to start in a place that's dangerous. And
Very.
they're like, yeah. And they're like, no, and they're looking at him like, dude, we got families, we got children. I've never heard that from you guys. You're adventurous, whatever.
Well, and
We can kayak.
it was like the guys, first of all, yes, they're older. This is like a scary place to kayak. And he was drinking all night. They stopped it after dinner, but Jack kept drinking, and they're really, really worried about him. They think that he's just making some very stupid decisions right now. And the guys are like, let's just go downriver where it's, where it's not as dangerous. We can kind of kind of have some fun. Like, they're not out for like
Right.
major adventure. Like, they're not
Right.
trying
They're
to
not
break records.
right. They're not trying to kill themselves.
No. And Jack seems to be heading that way. And then he gets mad. Then he gets pissed.
Yeah.
He's like, fine, you want to leave early? Fine, then we'll just call it then. Whatever. And the guys are like, dude, like, chill. And he just storms off. And they're kind of worried about him because he's just acting a fool. So then we see Hope.
Oh, yep.
Olive Branch. They should have called this episode Olive Branch because there's so many of them. So she shows up at Muriel's house with a very forceful knock. And Muriel is very surprised. And she's like, I brought you a pie. And Muriel's like,
Muriel has this look on her face like,
thanks.
Thank you, but why?
And she's like, for your party, strawberry cream cheese with graham cracker crust. And she's like, wow, it sounds delicious. It's so thoughtful of you. And she's like, she doesn't know what to say. She goes, is that it? Or did you want to come in? And she's like, tongue-tied. She's like, look, I wanted to say I'm sorry. The way things ended with you and Doc. He's a decent man, and I know he feels bad. So do I. I mean, her admitting that is huge.
I know, especially to her.
And Muriel, again, extends that olive branch. I appreciate you coming all the way over here to tell me that. But for the record, no hard feelings. And she's like, oh, good. I'm so glad we cleared things up. And she's like, relieved. She's like, enjoy your afternoon. And Muriel just can't let it go
and
there.
This is why I love this woman, because...
And then she gets her. She's like, just your performance. She goes, bravo. Your performance as Doc's supportive ex-wife was flawless, with a smile. She goes, but unfortunately for you, the show's not over. Because when you screw things up with Doc again, and we both know you will, I'll be there to pick up the pieces. And she just gives a sweet, sweet smile as she turns around, flips her hair, and shuts the door, holding the pie, and then gives her a little, like a mean look right as she shuts the door. And just leaves Hope standing there.
And Hope has that look on her face like she could be right.
Yeah.
Because basically, the two of them have been down this road more ways than one. And she has, and she knows she screwed up because, even that whole incident at the egg race,
right.
Where she didn't support Doc, and it was Jack who had to inform her, when somebody asks you something, they want your participation. They wanted you there. They want you to hear them.
If people are talking, they want to be heard. Absolutely. So here we are back at Mel's cabin, and she's doing a bit of reminiscing. She has this small suitcase, and she's looking through it and smelling things and sorting through photos of Mark. He was a sailor. I guess he had a boat, or the family had a boat. And it seems like a really big part of his life, the sailing.
Yep. He seemed to have enjoyed it very much. That was his downtime when he wasn't a doctor.
Right,
You know what
right.
I mean?
And then she gets a text message from Joey, and she said that she said she, because I'm sure she called Joey and she's like, I'm trying to figure out how to honor Mark on this first anniversary of his death, and I need some, like, you got any ideas? And Joey texts her and says that she found a sailing camp to sponsor in Mark's name, because of sailing being such a big part of his life. And so that's a nice idea, but it's like
Yeah.
she's not loving it. Like, it's not
Well,
like she jumped on
that's
it.
oh,
She
and I love
in
this.
the
I love this
reminiscing.
part.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I love this. Oh,
I know. It's
and
sad,
okay,
but
it's sad but so cute because I think of people who had who wish they could have that and don't have that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That they could have have their voices of the loved ones they had
Well,
on a
sure.
voicemail,
And that's why
and
people don't
who,
like get rid of people's phones when they pass away, because they want to hear their message or a message
yeah,
that they've left on their phone. And he had left a message during for their anniversary. He had left her a message. So I don't know. They never say when their anniversary was, and it's the only message on her phone. So maybe it wasn't too long before the accident that it was their anniversary. But he leaves a message, and he says, "Happy anniversary. I love you. Okay, I got to run. We got an MVA, multi vehicle accident, rolling in. So I'll see you tonight. We can go out to dinner. We can stay in bed and have lots of sex." And she just kind of chuckles, and he goes, "I vote for the latter. Love you." And then he hangs up. And it's like she plays it again. "Hey, babe, happy anniversary." And then she starts to cry. Like, at first it's fun, but then it's like it's like it hit her that he's not there. And so it's just kind of coming to terms that it's been almost a year. So now we're at
and
Jack's
now,
bar,
and all the guys are lined up at the bar.
having some breakfast, more
Hmm.
coffee, and preacher's there. And
They're saying their goodbyes, and everybody's bailing out one at a time.
Mike stays back for a minute, and he was like, "Hey, I still need to know what we can do about Calvin." Because, remember, he's a detective in LA. And he goes, "Not much at this point. Everything is circumstantial. They don't have enough for a warrant. I mean, it's almost like something has to happen. He has to do something, or they have to catch him at something before they can actually act on it." And he's like, "Look, I know he's into something new. I can feel it." And he goes, "Jack, your hunches have saved my life more than once." Because remember, Jack was the whatever, their lead, their boss in
Hmm.
the war. And he was their commanding officer. So he was the one who pointed everyone in the right direction, gave all the, and he got him out of messes. I mean, they all came back except for one guy. I mean,
Yeah.
unfortunately, but he helped them survive all that. So they trust him. They believe in him even today, even now. And Mike's like, the DEU is going to, they're going to need more information. There's just, right now it's all circumstantial. They can't do anything about it. Mike's like, "We'll do the best we can." And Jack's like, "But yeah, but what about the pot business?" Unfortunately, years ago, that may have been something that they could act on. But
Yeah, but
Mike reminds him
mhm.
that there's a lot of illegal growers, and as long as they claim to be moving toward compliance, there's nothing they can do. They're not prosecuting anybody right now because there's just too many of them. And they're not, as
Yep.
long as they say they're going to do the right thing, until they don't do the right thing, there's nothing they can do. And plus, he said he wishes he could do more, but it is out of his jurisdiction because they're up in Humboldt County and he's in LA. So it's also a different county. So he said he's just going to, keep in touch, talk to the sheriff. Maybe they can catch him in the act or catch him doing something. And hopefully that will work. Jack feels bad, that the weekend is kind of ending on a sour note because he kind of blew up at everybody, canceled the kayaking. Everybody just wanted to,
Yeah,
like, call it a weekend.
yeah, people didn't look forward to killing themselves.
No, and Jack was just he's on a different plane right now. And Mike's like, "Dude, don't stress about it. It's okay. Everybody had a good time. It's fine." He was like, "You don't think it was a bust?" And he was like, "No, do you?" And he goes, "Well, pretty much." And Mike's like, "Dude, you got a lot on your plate. And we
No
both
kidding.
know that stress can trigger other things. They never come out and ever. I don't think anyone really ever says PTSD.
No,
I
they
think
don't.
Mel talks to someone else about PTSD, but I don't know that she ever calls it that to his face. But we all know what it is. So he was like, I just wanted to blow off some steam. And he goes, yeah, but you got to take care of yourself. And he goes, no, I'm good. I'm good. I swear I'm good. He puts on a brave face all the time. So the
He's
guys are
lying through his teeth.
packing up. And one of the guys comes over to Preacher, pulls him aside, and he's like, we're worried about Jack. I know he's hard headed, but please keep an eye on him. And he's like, look, I am. I have been, and I will continue to. And one of the guys kind of says, hey, by the way, he left a kayak up there. So I don't know what he's planning to do, but keep an eye out for him. So they say their goodbyes and take it easy and drive safe and all of that. And they pack up. And Preacher's like, well, what's going on? They're worried about you. And he was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh no, it's nothing to worry about. I'm good. I'm fine.
Yeah, that's when you worry, when
That's
somebody
exactly
says
when
that.
someone says they're fine and they're not fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they say it with such enthusiasm.
Right.
Yeah, that's just
Yeah.
not going well.
Yeah, definitely.
Not going well. So then we have Mel doing her fabulous running
Yep, and it's
as she
cold.
loves to do.
She's all
Mm,
she's all warmed up with her vest and gloves, and she sees Jack's truck rolling by, and she flags him down. And this is funny because it's so awkward because they're in the friend zone, and it's like
yeah,
they're both kind of going through their own stuff. He's dealing with the guys and all the feelings about Lonergan and everything, and she's dealing with the 1 year anniversary of Mark's death. So they got so much going on in their own heads, but yet they're
yeah.
still kind of trying to be there for each other in a way. So she flags him down and she's like, hey, how's it going? He was like, and she's like, I thought you were with your buddies. And he's like, oh, yeah, they had to head back. And she's like, oh, well, how was it? And he's like, well, it wasn't what I expected, but, it was fine. And she's like, are you, like, looking at him like, are you okay? And he goes, yeah, I'm all good. And he goes, because you look like you haven't slept. Oh, we were up late and, a few too many. And I can't handle my hangovers the way I used to. I mean, he's not 22 anymore. And she's
None of
like,
us are.
yeah. And she's like, oh, okay. And he goes, well, I should probably get going. He said, where are you headed? And, oh, I promised Charmaine I'd stop by and after the boys left. And she's like, oh, okay. And he's like, well, did you figure your thing out, with Mark and the whole, and she's like, yeah, I thought maybe a run would help because she always runs to clear her head. And he's like, yeah, probably a good idea. And she's like, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're just like, it's so awkward. And he's like, all right, well, I'm around if you need anything. And she's like, okay, well, if there's anything I can do. And he's like, yep, I know where to find you. And it's just, he drives away. And just the most awkward in exchange, like so bizarre. So
But
she's,
this is a nice scene
I love this. Yeah.
because now she's running past a lake
Remember the
and
lake
there's
that
somebody
the bakery truck had been there at some point.
right, and somebody's passing in a boat, and then now we pan into a bigger sort of lake vibe,
A
and
flashback.
yeah, flashback. The music is telling of
Mm-hmm.
the situation, and there she is with her. There she is with Mark,
On a
and
boat
then she
because
says,
they apparently
"Promise
sailed
me."
together. Promise me you'll never let me turn into my father. Because now we know how the mother is.
Yes.
We've heard from Stacy that she's a narcissist. We have not.
Uh,
We have not met her at this point. Oh no, wait.
yes. No, we haven't
No,
met
we
the
have
mother
not.
as
We
yet.
have not met the mother yet. But all we
No,
know is what the
she's a
opinions
narcissist.
of both Stacy and Mel are. That she's a complete narcissist. That
Yep.
how he's even in this family is shocking. But Mark does
Yeah.
not want to turn into his father.
The
And
men
she's
in
like,
her
I
life
like
seem
your
to have,
father.
the men in her life seem to have father issues.
But
Jack,
then,
now him.
because you're thinking, oh, maybe he's a horrible person like the mother. And it turns out that he's probably not. Because she's like, I like your father. Now, if Mel likes him, there's some redeeming quality about him. And he's joking, they're joking, like, stop it. And he's like, I don't want to turn into a guy who's 70 years old and worked his ass off and, he's rich but miserable. And she's like, "Oh, he's like, I love what I do, but I don't want to be working till the end of my life. Like, and have hospital meatloaf and, all of that. So make sure that I enjoy it," what he's basically telling her is, you have to help me make sure that I enjoy my life, and
My later years, yes.
yeah. And so she's like, "Okay, so then what are you going to do when you retire? What are you going to do with your days?" And he has a cute response. He says, "I'm going to sail around the world making love to you at every port." I mean,
It's
we
very
like
sweet.
Jack. These two are cute, Mark and Mel, but they're so different. Mark and Jack are so different.
Oh, yes.
I mean, he's cute, and it's the relationship seems like it was really good when it was good. But yeah, sorry, Mark. We'll miss you. Bye bye. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but he's not here anymore, so we're just gonna move on. So we're back at Hope's house, and she's sitting out on the patio with Tucker in her lap. Now, this was the
Which
mongrel who
I
she
know,
was ready to like toss out with the
I know.
trash.
And the fact that the dog is sitting on her lap, not by her foot, not next to her,
Oh
in
no.
her lap.
Yes, getting petted. Yes, she is petting this mongrel dog. And in walks Doc.
And
And then
so when she,
when Charmaine's not around, they get along just fine. And I guess they left Tucker there with Hope to help get Charmaine settled in first, and then Jack was going to come pick him up the next day. And Doc, of course, can see right through her, and he goes, "Who are you trying to kid? He loves you. You love anybody who
uh,
follows your orders." He goes, "Oh, I baked today. He probably smells graham crackers." He goes, "Oh, are we having pie?" She's like, "No." He's like, "Why not? You baked?" Like, "Yeah, I made it for Muriel."
and the look on Doc's face is like, what?
And I mean, this is a big step for her. She tells him that she felt bad, so she went over and to Muriel's and apologized. And he was like, "Wow, don't you feel
That
better?" And she's like, "No."
no.
She said apologizing to Muriel is like pouring water on a grease fire, only because Muriel took it to a different level.
Exactly. But you know what? She got exactly what she deserved.
Exactly.
You know, the thing is, this is the problem with Hope. She takes things too far, and when people call her on her bullshit, she's upset.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't
And Muriel called
cause any
right.
turmoil and you don't have a
Yeah.
problem. Like if they would have
Mind
gone
your
on
own
the
business.
one date and then he would have told Muriel, it would have not been a big deal.
Yeah.
It's like he was experimenting to see if maybe there was something there, but then he realized he really did want to be with her. One date would have been fine. Like everybody would have been fine. But it became this drawn out, leading her on kind of situation that just wasn't right. And Muriel's pissed. I mean, she saw through it once she realized what was going on, and she's kind of mad. So,
Yeah, I don't blame her. I
yeah,
mean,
I'd be mad
that's
too.
that's being used, and there was, and you know what? It wasn't called for.
Yeah,
It
it wasn't.
really wasn't called for.
Yeah,
You know, I get that the two of them have their tit for tat,
yeah,
but that I think that was pushing it a little too far.
right.
I'm sorry.
And I think Doc is always trying to help Hope learn lessons from the things that she does. Always trying to like bring it back to let's learn from this. So he says to her like no matter how difficult somebody is, if you've done wrong by them,
Yeah,
you the right thing to do is to apologize. And so it was a good thing that she did that.
it is.
And he says he's proud of her and she's like, "How proud?" "Very, very proud." And they do a little smoochy. So the two of them
Yeah.
with their little affair is just kind of
Yes.
funny. So Hope
But
gets a phone call and she's like, "Hi, Mel." "Yeah, sure." And she's looking at Doc like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'll grab my sewing kit and be right there." And Doc's like, "What? Is everything okay?" She goes, "Yep, I'll explain on the way. Let's go." So now we've
and
got Charmaine is home and
oh, this
Jack shows up
scene,
to check on her. And
this scene is so. I feel for Jack in this scene because it's so overwhelming.
yeah,
You
he can't
know,
handle this.
be,
I mean, if it
no,
had been a month before or a month later, he probably would have been fine.
But even a couple of days earlier, this would have been fine.
Yeah.
But between all the stuff that went on with the
Too
guys,
too
he is
much.
not he is not in an emotional
I
place for
mean,
what she's about to throw at him.
the whole thing with like Lonergan and the phone call with the brother and
Hmm.
dealing with the guys
Yeah.
and kind of like feeling like he wants to throw himself in the river, all of that. He's in one space and she, as always, does not even see him. Like
No.
she does not recognize how much
Yeah.
he's, I mean, even Mel knows he's struggling and she doesn't even see him that often.
Right.
You know, Charmaine
But
is
but
constantly calling him over and spending time with him and making him get her this and
but
get her that.
that's the difference between somebody seeing you and somebody seeing you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
She
Charmaine,
doesn't see him at
she
all.
is no, she does not see him because what she's after is something he can't give her,
Yeah.
and so she is totally focused on just what can I do to get Jack.
Right. And you
While
know, the
on the
sad thing is if she would have looked at this whole situation in a completely different way and
Mhm.
took the time to appreciate him where he is, what he's going through, ask about him, try and help him, there may have been a chance.
Yeah,
I mean, in reality, you know, because granted, yes, he's in love with Mel and he was never going to go with Charmaine. But it was like there was a sliver of a chance if she appreciated him, if she saw him, if she actually cared about him, not what he can do for her, not what he
mhm,
represents,
yeah,
but him. And she just doesn't have it in her.
no,
Doesn't even have it in her.
nope, she
So
doesn't.
she answers the door and not, you're looking tired. I mean, even Mel, she saw him for like a minute and she's like, God, you look tired. Are you okay? Like, hadn't seen him, but noticed that immediately. She
Yeah,
looks right through him. Oh, I have a surprise.
yeah,
Like, doesn't even, like, he looks worn out. Now he walks
yeah.
in and it looks like Babies R Us threw up in her apartment.
Yes, it does.
Now, mind you, she's like 5 minutes pregnant, right?
Yep,
I mean, let's say 2 months, 3 months,
maybe, yeah, maybe
maybe,
3 months. Yeah,
maybe,
I mean, you're crying twins. You look bigger than
but
usual,
she's
but
not even really showing. And this
yeah.
seems a bit rushed.
Hmm.
I mean, her aunt went crazy and all of that, but I mean, there's no room in her apartment. I mean, I'd be overwhelmed, and I'm not even the father of the baby, you know? Like anybody who walks in to this apartment and sees all of that would be like, oh my gosh. And he was like, what happened here? She goes, oh, my aunt and uncle in Portland bought everything, which clearly they have some money
Yep.
because that is like literally everything. She goes, and friends from my salon, they came over and they put everything together because cribs and this and that. She goes, I know it's bad luck to do any of this stuff before the end of the first trimester. So now we know that it's not quite the end. It sounds like it's close to the end, so the first 3 months.
Hmm.
But she said they were so excited.
Yep.
So she goes, I couldn't say no. And she's just so excited and giddy and look at the theme is perfect and it's wish upon a star and dreams come true and oh my gosh, it's like a fairy tale. And he was like, yeah. She goes, oh, feel this. It's so soft and you know, maybe they're fleece and I don't know. And it's just so soft.
And
He's
he is
literally having
just
a panic attack.
yeah, he is just so out of it.
She's like, I love the pattern and oh my gosh. And it's so cute. And he is having a panic attack. And
And
he's like,
then she says, Jack,
I'll be back in a second.
and he goes to the bathroom and
Yeah.
closes the door and he sprays water on his face because God alone knows it. And even when he walks into the bathroom, there's baby stuff there too.
Oh, I know. There's like baby stuff everywhere. It's like I
Yeah.
said, Babies R Us threw up. And he puts water on his face and he's like, just like, oh my gosh, I can't even handle this. Like, he can't breathe. It's like too
Yeah.
much. Like, the reality that these babies are coming
Yeah.
literally hit him in the face.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to know it, it's another
Yeah.
thing to see it, like
Yeah, because it's
everywhere.
happening. Well, that the thing is now it now hits him
It's
that
reality.
it exactly because now there's proof of it. It's
Yeah.
one thing, you know, when you see Charmaine, as you pointed out, she's not
She's not
big,
really
so it's
showing. Yeah.
right. And so you can, the clothes can disguise it and whatever.
Sure.
But when you got baby stuff everywhere, so then it kind of hits home like, holy, you know
Yeah,
what?
he's having a serious panic attack and he can't handle it. I mean,
Nope.
he has so much stress. It's like this tipped him over. Like he was
Yeah.
already on the edge and he's ready to jump.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like,
Yep.
I got to get back to the bar. And she's like, right now? Oh, yeah, preacher. And, and
First
she's like, well,
slam.
why don't you call and check? And he's, oh, no. And I got to go. And I really got to get going. And she's like, well, can't you get somebody to cover? And he's like, what is this, National Question Jack Day? She's like, look, I'm not trying to upset you. And he's like, look, I really got to get going and I'll call you later. And he's gone. Now, of course, she's going to take this personally. Like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, he doesn't care about me. He doesn't care about the babies. Not having a clue, not seeing him that he's struggling right now. Like, can't you tell
Mm-hmm.
the dude was having a panic attack? And it could be,
Nope.
in her mind, if she had been paying attention, is he having a panic attack because this being a father is like freaking him out? Or is it the guys that came? Is it, the PTSD? Is it, it could be anything. But
Yep.
she doesn't see any of it. It's
Yep.
like
She
it
does
doesn't
not.
exist. She's just
Yeah.
pouting and feeling sorry for herself.
Yep. She's in Charmaine's world. She's
Oh
not
yeah.
in anybody else's world. So that's
So
that's the
now
deal.
we
So
are at the lake and
mm,
Mel is there with a boat and remember the Siegel, the George Siegel t-shirt, Bullet Train Band or whatever that t-shirt
yes,
was that was
yes.
Mark's.
Mm-hmm.
Hope has helped her fashion it into a sail for this boat. And Doc
Yep.
and Hope are there with her. Mel is asking Hope, are you sure that you're okay with me using this boat? It's like this little model sailboat. And she's like, oh, yeah, it was just gathering dust. And she's like, oh, I appreciate it. And she said, it's a lovely tribute. And Mel's like, thanks. And they finish whatever they need to do to put the sail on. And she goes, the actual anniversary is tomorrow. And Doc's like, maybe you two ladies need a minute. And maybe this is a woman thing. And Hope's like, the boat is older than you, Vernon. And if it sinks, I'm going to need somebody to go in after it. And he's like, there's waiters in the truck. Like, you can go get it yourself. And
Mm.
Mel's like, no, Doc, I'd really like you to stay. So, I mean, you figure she has no parents.
Yep. They're
She,
stepping in like that.
right. Her sister's not there. She's still fairly new to the town. She's probably closer to, Hope, Doc, and Jack more than anybody else. And
Yep.
right now, it's like she doesn't need the drama that comes with Jack. And this is not something she would bring Jack into. So it's almost like the parental figure, the
Yeah.
support of step in parents is exactly what she needs.
And they fit the bill.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, God, her and Doc have come so far.
Oh, tell me about it.
From like insulting him on day one to
Yep.
her asking if he can stay there while she gives this tribute to her dead husband. And so he's like, we can come back tomorrow and do this if you like. And she's like, no. She really thought about it, and the only way she's going to get through tomorrow, which is the actual day, is if she treats it like it's any other day, which is why she wanted to do this tribute for him today, because a year ago, everything was okay. They were together, and that's the way that she wants to remember him. So the boat's ready. And Hope asks Mel if she is too, and she's like, yeah. And so she goes to the end of the dock as Doc and Hope hold hands and kind of stand there waiting for her. And she puts it in the water and just kind of sits there and reflects for a minute. And she puts the boat in the water and she kind of gives it just a little nudge. And they play some like really sad music.
Yep.
And she just kind of sits there and watches it float away very slowly.
And the music, as always, is
Beautiful.
fitting to the
Very fitting.
occasion.
And then she
Yes.
has a flashback and remembers him sailing by himself. And she kind of pictures him looking at her and he gives her a smile.
And she has that very solemn look. And she says, I hope you're sailing now, babe.
And she's tearing
And
up.
yep. It's so cute, too, because you see Doc and Hope hugging each other, side by side.
Yeah.
and just supporting her from afar,
And then she turns
you
around to look
know.
at them, and then they come walk up behind her, and they kind of get on either side of her and put their arms around her. And she kind of looks
So
into Hope's eyes and looks into Doc's eyes, and the three of them just stand there, and they just kind of watch the boat slowly make its way. It's about halfway across, and slowly make its
yeah,
way. And she kind of sniffs a little and looks at Doc and looks at Hope and
it's like
takes
a
a deep
silent
breath.
thank you.
Yeah, like a thank you. And she kind of takes a deep breath and she starts to walk away, and her phone rings. And she looks at the phone and she kind of stops and she's like, "Oh." And they're like, "Is everything okay?" She goes, no, I'm sorry, I have to go." And she like runs. So something happened.
hmm
So now we're in Eureka.
hmm With a boy who is not supposed to be in Eureka.
Mm-hmm. And Lizzie and Ricky are shopping. And she's like, "Are you bored?" He's like, "No, it's just the bar. She goes, "There's more to life than work." And he goes, "Yeah, but, you don't take your job seriously." He goes, "I have to work in order to pay for stuff." And she goes, "Well, you're at the bar all the time." And he goes, "Well, I think Jack takes advantage of you." And he's like, "That's not true. Jack's done a lot for him." And he was like, "He's taking advantage of you." And he's like, "No, that's not Jack." He goes, you know that you won't say no to him." He goes, "You're going to have to learn the hard way to stand up for yourself." He goes, "Yeah, but
Says
your
the girl.
parents support you."
Exactly, but says the girl who took advantage of him to take a car that he wasn't supposed to take.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And he's like reminding her that she lives a different life than him. Her parents give her money, her parents take care of her. Even if they don't spend time with her,
Yeah.
the support that they each receive from the adults in their life is very, very different.
Oh
And
yes,
it
yes, yes.
has changed the way that they look at the world. And this
hmm
is, even though Vicky is doing all the things he should not be doing, it's hard for him.
Yep.
It's not easy for him to go against what he knows it's wrong, but he's doing it anyway. And
Yep.
she's like, "Yeah, well, my parents care so much. They were practically ready to send me to some camp because I stole some makeup from a CVS. Instead, they sent me here." She's just taking advantage. She had to threaten to run away before they did anything. That's how she got attention. That's how she has to get attention. And for her, I think it's survival mode.
I get that. I understand that, but the fact is, you're taking Ricky along for the ride, and that's not fair to him.
And that shows her
You know.
immaturity. And
Yep.
in time, she will learn, and that will make more sense to her, and she will grow up. But it's like this is her little bit of rebellious stage right now. And until she kind of gets that out of her system, she's going to act like this. And Ricky is sort of
Yeah.
helps, I think, is sort of helping her to like see the other side, because his life is
Yeah.
very, very different. And by sort of grounding her in a way, she's learning that her life is very different and that she needs to pay more attention, not to the things in her life, and she needs to do what's right. She needs to think about things a little bit more. So,
If only.
I know, youngins. Oh, the youngins. So
Yes, the
much to
young.
learn, so little time.
Mm.
So here we are, back where the kayaking was going to happen. And,
And we
oof,
and and there's an argument happening between preacher and Jack.
it's a big
And
one.
preacher,
Oof.
yeah, and preacher's telling him, "I'm not gonna let you, Jack. You're not going in."
And he
And
is arguing. He's like, "I know what I'm doing." He's like, "You're crazy." He goes, "Look, just meet me at the bottom." And
and
Preacher, it was Preacher that called Mel and
yes,
called in
exactly.
reinforcements because
That yes.
he's like,
He
he's
figured that
dead.
the only person he's gonna listen
Talk
to.
some sense into him. And he tells Mel, he's like, "Oh my God, thank God you're here." He goes, "Look, he's dead. If he goes in that water, he's not coming out."
Hmm?
And she walks up to him and she's like, "Jack, what?" And he's like, "What the hell are you doing here?" He goes, "What are you doing? This isn't safe." And he goes, "Look, I know what I'm doing." And she's like, "All right, well, then I'm going to come with you." And she grabs a kayak and she drags it over. And he's like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm going to come with you." He's like, "No, you're not." He goes, "Well, if it's safe enough for you, then it's safe enough for me." He's like, "Can you stop it?" He's like, "Look, I heard you." He goes, "Then leave." He goes, "No, not till after we kayak." And they're just like, it's a stare down. She goes, "Well, it must not be dangerous, right? Because you're not the kind of man that would risk leaving twins without a father." And it's like, that
And you,
Shocks him.
and the look on his face, he's so mad at her for it. It's like somebody throwing it in your face because they're throwing it in your face because you're being an idiot.
Yeah, and she is
You
not
know.
one to back down. And honestly,
Oh
Preacher couldn't have said anything that he would
no.
have listened to. It almost had to come from her
Yeah.
because you know how much he values what she says, and he would never
Yeah.
ever let anything happen to her.
Happened to her. Yeah.
And the look on his face when she said that, it's like
Mm,
he wasn't thinking, and then she kind
mm-hmm.
of smacked him back into reality,
Mm, yeah.
and she's like, "I'm going to go up. Are you coming?" And she just kind of stares him down like, "Okay." Like the fact that she knew that what she said was enough, that he
Yeah.
wasn't going to just jump in the water. Like she saw the look on his face. That's how well she knows him. She saw
Oh
the
yeah.
look on his face and knew that she cracked through it. And he just kind of gets pissed and he starts dropping his stuff, standing there looking at the water. And she goes and sits on a rock, and he's now taking off the life vest, and he's kind of like tail between his legs, right?
Yep.
Like walking back to where she's sitting, kind of like defeated.
Yep.
And she knows he's been struggling. She just doesn't know really what to do. And he just sits there and he's like, gosh, the two of them.
Mm,
He's
yeah.
like, thank you. I love this
It's
scene. I love
it
this
is a
scene.
lovely. It's a great scene because now they both have to talk.
Well, and it's like she gets he's going through a lot, and this woman, she has been through so much. She can empathize with pretty much anybody's anything. And so she's like, when Mark died and I lost my baby, for a long time she didn't care whether she lived or died.
Cool.
And I'm sure that's hard for him to hear, like that she would actually think that. And she's like, I'm sorry. I wish I knew how to help you. I mean, she figures if nothing else, she'll just be there. If she can't
Yeah.
say anything or do, just to physically be there with him might be enough.
And there's that silent pause.
Yeah. And then it comes out, and he's like, someone was missing from the reunion. Because she knew something was eating at him, and he didn't want to talk about it. And all of his acting out and, let's have fun and let's do this and let's go here, was all to just distract him from the reality. And now
Yeah.
it's coming out. And it's like he had to get it out. It was going to eat him alive if he didn't.
Yeah.
And she finally, like I said, once she snapped him back into reality, she's pulling it out of him. And he said one of the guys didn't make it back. And he says it's his fault because it was his
Oh.
job to make sure that everybody came back alive. And Mel is like, Jack, like,
You can't promise that to anybody.
no, that's an impossible standard. I mean, you do the best you can. It's war. People die. And then the reality of it all really hits home. He's like, if I can't keep a grown man safe, how am I supposed to protect a helpless infant? Two helpless infants. Like that's the core. His whole thing is Lonergan died, it's his fault. And if he couldn't, with guns and armor and protection and a whole army on his side, protect one young man, how in the heck is he going to protect two little tiny babies?
Mm-hmm.
And that's his fear, that something's going to happen, and he doesn't want to be responsible. And she's like, you're the strongest, most responsible man that I know. And he's like, no, I don't. He look at his face. It's like, I don't believe you. She's like, look how you've devoted yourself to the town. You take care of everybody. If anyone is fit to be a father, it's you. And he's like, I don't trust myself. And that's the core of it. Because of what happened, he doesn't trust himself. And she's like, down there, I was going to go with you. I was completely willing to trust you with my life. And he's like, oh, please. I would never put you in danger. And she's like, I know. You just made my point. And then he's like, okay. And then we get to see the dimples. They're back.
The smile that we've
The
missed throughout the
dimples.
entire episode.
I know, because he's been in such a sourpuss the whole time. And she's like, look, you're going to have two children that you love more than anything else in the world. And they're going to love you more than anything. And you're not going to want to miss that. And he's like, okay, I get it. You're right. It's like, you're right.
The smirk smile comes back.
Yeah. And he's like, should we get going? Now she's had a day because he doesn't know, but she just did the whole tribute to her dead husband. So they're both full of such emotion and grief. And I mean, just like a lot. That's a heavy day.
Mm,
And
it
she's
is.
just like, she put her head on his shoulder and she's like, in a minute.
Yeah.
And they just sit there. Now, little tidbit,
Yeah.
the original script called
Hmm.
for him, which they did film it because there's a picture somewhere that shows him kissing the top of her head in
Mm.
this scene, like at this moment. And the writers decided to cut that out because
Oh.
they decided to draw out them getting together. They felt that they didn't want to rush things, that they needed more pining, more time, more
Oh.
emotion, and they felt like him kissing her on the head was like too fast. It was moving too fast, that they wanted to draw it out even more. So there is a photo of that, but it was cut from the episode.
Oh, what a shame. What a shame.
So it just shows the two of them just sitting there.
Mm.
I know. I thought that was so interesting. I'm like, so they're just going to draw it out even more because I mean, I guess it would have brought them a little closer, but they're keeping the longing. It's the longing that makes, when they finally do get together so much better, I
I
suppose.
guess, I suppose so.
I mean, you think
But
of
for
little
those of
kids.
us, yeah, for those of us who are the fans who want this to get where it needs to go,
I know.
it's just like,
Can we just
can
get
we
there?
speed this up?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
No,
speed
no,
this up,
no.
please.
We're gonna live every moment. So we're back at Jack's
Yes.
bar. It's in the evening. Uh, new waiter, busboy George is working, and
Hmm.
he's clearing some tables. And preacher walks in, and he's like, "Where's Ricky?" And he's like, "He never showed up." Because remember, Ricky was supposed to take a test, and then he had to go to a second shift at the bar, and
Yep.
instead, Lizzie
It-
distracted him
mm,
and took him to Eureka shopping.
yes, he had to go Sephora.
And all the other places because she had lots and lots of bags full of things. And so preacher's
Hmm.
like, "All right, thanks, George. You can go ahead and clock out, and he'll take care of it." So George is out of there, and who does he see sitting at a table having a glass of wine?
Our favorite restaurant
Yeah,
owner.
he's like, "Hi, late dinner," and she's like, "Well, I came in for today's special, but it was all out." He goes, "Well, folks really like my special." And she said that her day doesn't start until 4 o'clock because he was wondering if she was a night owl. So she has him sit down and they have a little chat. She's like, "Why are you wasting your talents in this bar when you could be working at a 5-star restaurant? Better yet, like your own place." He goes, "Well, once I settled in Virgin River, I never really considered moving because the people here, they're like family." And she's like, "Okay, well, family's great, but sometimes a little distance could be a good thing." And he's like, "Well, I don't know." He doesn't think that his resume would wow any like fancy restaurant. And
Hmm.
he couldn't imagine starting at the bottom either, like as a busboy or whatever. She goes, "Well,
Yeah.
what if I could change that? It could be a whole new life." And he's like, I don't know if I like Jamie. I feel like there's conversations that they have with her now and
No,
later.
I like Jamie because basically she's a straight shooter. She doesn't, she the thing with her is she doesn't understand the way they live in
Yeah,
Virgin River. You
right.
remember, she's a city girl.
She's from,
It's
yeah,
it's just like they have a different way of
yeah, true.
dealing with
And
things
she is a
than
straight shooter.
we
I,
do in
I agree with that.
and so the thing is, she sees him for the talent that he is, but she doesn't understand his loyalty to
Yeah,
where he is now.
yeah.
And so that's the thing about it is, and it's the same thing with Lizzie and
Ricky.
what's his name, Ricky, is that she doesn't understand that while you may have a messed up family, the entire town is Ricky's family,
Exactly.
because they supported him when he was small, and if he needed anything with
Yeah.
his grandmother, and when his grandfather died, the town
Like
was
I don't
there for them.
exactly.
you know
I
they don't
don't know
understand.
that Lizzie has anyone like that.
No, she doesn't, and that's why the way she perceives the world is very different
Yeah,
than the
very
way
different.
Ricky perceives the world. And the same thing with Preacher. It's just that the way they see the world is very different because one lives in a very different environment as far as career wise, getting what you want. She's a straight shooter.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to see his talent go to waste,
Yeah.
but she also doesn't understand the family
Right.
dynamics of the town
And you know that
because
that also happened with Mel and Jack. I mean, Jack moved there and
exactly,
he adopted everyone as his I mean, he has a family, like he has a sister and sisters, like four sisters. He has
right,
parents.
yes,
Mel only has one sister who she doesn't live near, and so she wanted to escape and wound up finding family in the people
right,
around her. So it's like everyone became everyone's family. It's like they've created this mishmash of a I don't commune
yeah.
family. I don't know what you call
But
it.
that's the thing about living in a
Small town. And
small
you're looking
town.
out for each other. You gossip about each other.
Exactly.
It's like you
But
love to hate
exactly.
them. It's all of it.
Everybody's in your business, but when the chips are down, these
You
are the
know you
same
can count on
people.
these people.
Oh, definitely.
100%.
It's the same thing with Lily um when she had the baby.
Yes,
You
everyone
know,
just jumped in and did whatever they
everybody
needed to do to help.
exactly, and so it's the nature of small towns to
Yeah.
be like this. But when you live in a big city, you don't you those are
No,
not
you don't get that.
options that are available
No,
to you.
people don't even know who their
You know,
next door neighbor is.
I
Yep.
can relate to that.
Yep. Exactly. So now we've got Ricky and Lizzie driving back from
Lizzie.
Eureka, and they're trying to get her back before curfew, or get him back before curfew. And she's like, relax. You're not going to be that late. She's not
Hmm.
worried. And he's like, oh, I'm
Of
relaxed. And
course
she goes,
she's
if this
not.
is relaxed, I'd hate to see stressed out.
Hmm.
And so he's like, put your seatbelt on. And she's like, oh my gosh, you're like my dad. He's like, well, it's basic automotive safety. And so she gets some candy out and she tries to like give him some candy. He's like, I've never seen someone eat so much candy. She goes, candy makes me happy. And she's like, so what do
Yep.
you want? So she's trying to give him some. And so she starts feeding him candy
And as she gives him some candy,
and he's blushing.
mhm,
And so he goes to look in the mirror to see himself blushing and he gets into a
and
car
then
accident.
and bang, and
Dummy.
that's where it.
So now Mel and
And
Jack are walking back from when they were sitting on the rock. It's now dark. So they must have sat there for a while, just kind of getting themselves together and getting their bearings. And they're walking through the forest and they see the police lights and
yeah,
something's going on. They see the sheriff. Now the sheriff knows everybody.
yeah.
So he walks
Again,
he
fall down.
yeah, he walks up to him and he goes, "Hey Jack, Mel." And they're like, "Hey sheriff, like what's going on?" And he goes, "Oh, we a couple of hikers found a body." And they're just like, "What?" The end.
That's
Like
where it ends.
cliffhanger.
Yep.
Like again, another cliffhanger. Now, the only
Is
body
it
that we think
we know
we
of
know of is Wes.
yeah, yes.
So we'll see. Is
So
it Wes? Is it someone
West,
else?
yep.
We won't know until we know.
Until
Till tune
episode
in
7.
next time to find out what's going on in the
where
forest.
where is
What happened with
these
Ricky's
dead bodies?
accident? Are Mel and Jack gonna finally stop being awkward? Is Charmaine gonna go after Jack again? Continue. Muriel, try to get Doc away from Hope. Will Hope ever learn a lesson?
Mm,
There's so much that could happen. There's a lot of storylines, a lot of intertwining lives. It's a lot. But it was a nice
yeah.
cliffhanger. I
Yes.
love that scene with the two of them on the rock having their little chat.
Yeah.
That's a really good scene.
It is.
I enjoyed that. All right.
Well, till next time, folks.
Yep. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you're enjoying our take on Virgin River and all of the happenings of this sleepy little town in Northern California. I'm having fun.
Mm.
This is fun. It's like we watched the show, we've seen it, but we talk about it anyway. So isn't it fun to talk about it and share our conversation with other people? Hope you
Exactly.
guys are enjoying it, and tune in next time for episode 7, Breaking Point. This is where things are going to get interesting. Don't they always? Oh my.
Yes, they do.
All right. Well,
Well, till next time, Tracy, we'll
thank
talk.
you, Gigi. Thanks. Bye
Bye.
bye, everybody.